In this video, you will enjoy a guided tour to the tomb of Nefertari known as the Sistine Chapel in Egypt, where you'll admire the fascinating art of ancient Egyptian tomb murals painted over 32 centuries ago. Let's take a steep 18-step staircase from the ground to the entrance of the tomb, where there are two places that are usually overlooked by visitors. One is a plaque above the lintel at the entrance, which records the achievements of the Italian archaeologist Ernesto Schiaparelli in the discovery of Nefertari's tomb. The other is the broken mural at the entrance. Because when you are at the entrance, your eyes are drawn to the breathtaking, bright bas-relief murals inside the tomb, ignoring the broken murals above and on both sides of the lintel at the entrance. With the murals restored by the computer program of the Turin Museum in Italy, we can see that the facade of the lintel depicts a golden sun disk rising between two red mountains. In the center of the disk is a scarab representing the reborn sun god. On either side of the mountain are the Eye of Horus and the goddesses Isis and Nephthys who greet the sun god. Next is the scene directly above the entrance, adjacent to the above-mentioned mural. It depicts a similar theme, with a golden sun disk rising between two red mountains, flanked by the goddesses Isis and Nephthys, who have taken the form of falcons, representing the sun that has risen high in the sky. Adjacent to this mural, the pictures on both sides of the entrance, like the above pictures, are also symmetrically arranged. In the uppermost trapezoidal area on both sides is the cobra goddess Wadjet, representing Lower Egypt. Beneath the cobra goddess is the vulture goddess Nekhbet of Upper Egypt, wearing the crown of Upper and Lower Egypt and the Atef crown of Osiris respectively. The Nekhbets stand on the Djed pillar, which represents the spine of Osiris, the god of the underworld. It is one of the most famous amulets in ancient Egypt, representing stability. But the Djed pillars used in tombs are often thought to evoke Osiris' regenerative powers, helping restore the vertebrae of the deceased so that the tomb owner could be reborn in the afterlife. These images can be seen as background scenes or prologues of an afterlife journey. After passing through the entrance, we came to the antechamber of the tomb. Visitors who have just entered the antechamber must be shocked by the vivid bas-relief murals, and the impression in their minds is color, color, and color. Brilliantly colored figures and elaborate hieroglyphs seem to jump out from a stark white background. The paint appears so fresh and bright that it is difficult to believe that it is over 3,200 years old. But it is not easy to find clues to interpret such rich murals. These scenes appear connected, but they are divided into two relatively independent narrative structures according to the direction Nefertari faces. Starting from the left side of the entrance of the antechamber, including the entire west wall, ending at the entrance of staircase B, it can be regarded as the first part of the narrative structure. Starting from the right side of the tomb entrance and heading east to the end of the entrance of staircase B constitutes the second part of the narrative. The first storyline of the murals in the antechamber can be divided into upper, middle, and lower parts. The lowermost part is a niche-like low wall topped with a cavetto cornice, which is the most classic and stylish art of ancient Egypt. The niches were beautifully painted and once used to hold items necessary for Nefertari's journey to the afterlife. Above the niche-like low wall, you will see finely painted hieroglyphic text taken from chapter 17 to the Book of the Dead. Right above the hieroglyphic depicts the scenes of the journey to the underworld corresponding to the text. Above these scenes, where the wall meets the ceiling, one can see the elegant Egyptian cavetto cornice again. It's the symbol of the sanctuary or temple. Now let's start from the entrance and read the murals in the direction Nefertari is facing. We can see Nefertari dressed in an elaborately pleated, almost transparent gown and wearing a tight-fitting vulture headdress. She holds a scepter and sits beneath a woven reed canopy on an elaborately painted chair on a reed mat, playing a game of Senet. This is a drafts-like strategy game. She must defeat her invisible opponent in this game if she is to gain access to the netherworld. It was very popular in ancient Egypt, and the Senet chess was unearthed in the tomb of Tutankhamun as well. It's not just a game, its content is more of a rehearsal for a journey to the afterlife. In the future, I will make a separate episode to demonstrate how to play this game. The text reads in part, "Here begins praises and recitations, going in and out of the realm of the dead, having benefits in the beautiful west, being in the suite of Osiris, resting at the food table of Wennefer. Going out into the day, taking away shape in which he desires to be, playing at Senet, sitting in a booth, and going forth as a living soul by the Osiris Nefertari after she has died." On the right side of this scene is an image of a human head and a bird body, and she represents Nefertari's Ba. The ancient Egyptians believed that the soul will be divided into three parts after death: Ba, Ka, and Uk. The Ba is represented in the form of a bird, representing the mobility of the soul. We can see the Ba bird of the queen's soul standing on top of its own tomb, indicating that the Ba has returned from outside to prepare for the night trip to the underworld. Looking ahead, it was Nefertari kneeling in prayer before Akaru. Akaru was an ancient Egyptian earth god and the deification of the horizon. Here the horizon is shown on the adjacent wall, represented by 2 mountains and 2 lions, and a red sun can be seen in the middle of the 2 mountains. Unlike the golden sun depicted at the entrance, the red sun here represents sunset. It alludes to the coming dark hours of the underworld. At the same time, this image is also located on the west wall, just confirming that there's the place of sunset, and at the bottom of the red sun there is a sign of life hanging, implying the journey of rebirth. The 2 lions are so detailed that rarely are so accurate and appealing drawings of lions to be found in Egyptian art. The delicate whiskers on their chins are a deft touch. The scenes from chapter 17 of the Book of the Dead continue. To the right of the lion, you can see a gray heron. In ancient Egyptian times, it was called the Bennu bird. It is the sacred bird of Heliopolis, the center for worshipping the sun god Ra. It is said to have existed at the beginning of creation and is associated with the aspect of Venus and the spirit of Ra. The next scene depicts the mummy of Nefertari, placed on a bed decorated with a lion's head and legs, with a canopy over the bed and a finely woven drapery around it. The mummy's body was wrapped in white linen and fastened with red straps, and the mummy's head wore a mask with a delicate chest collar and beard. On both sides of the mummy bed are the goddesses Isis and Nephthys, who appear in the form of falcons. They stand in front of the Nefertari's mummy, who is wearing the mask of Osiris, as if they are guarding Osiris, who is about to be resurrected. Looking further to the right, you can see a black-skinned genie of the Nile, called a fecundity figure because of its pendulous breasts and protruding belly, holding a palm branch that symbolizes eternal time. His left hand caressed an embryonic ring that encloses the eye of Horus and is associated with the conception of life. The mural in front of him has been destroyed, and another unidentifiable black-skinned genie can be seen, who appears to be holding caskets of life. On the further right of it is a gate to the underworld. On the other side of the gate, you can see the amulet the gatekeeper and the eye of Horus, both of which symbolize the protection of life. On the adjacent wall, opposite the eye of Horus, is the goddess Hathor in the form of a cow, symbolizing the nourishment of life. Next to the cow is the house of Anubis. Inside the house is a black jackal, a symbol of Anubis, the mummy and cemetery patron. There are 4 gods related to the creation of life, including Shu and Ra, on both sides of the house of Anubis. They stand on either side of the house of Anubis in the form of mummies. This scene possibly indicates that Nefertari's life was re-injected into the mummy's body. To their right, Horus and Nefertari sit on thrones. It means that Nefertari has successfully passed that level. Continuing to the right, we will see figures of 5 gods in sitting position above the entrance of the stairs leading to the second basement level. Depending on the direction they are facing, I think they should belong to the scenes in another narrative direction. Now we turn our eyes back to the entrance of the tomb and admire the bas-relief murals from our right-hand side. The first scene shows Grand Queen Nefertari wearing a dressy, elegant white gown with a red girdle around her waist and a vulture headdress topped with feathers, paying her devout worship in front of the temple of Osiris. Before her, Osiris sat in an elaborately decorated shrine, holding a flail and a hooked scepter, and wearing a red girdle of the same style as Nefertari's. In front of Osiris stood the 4 gods who guarded the vital internal organs of the dead. They are the 4 sons of Horus. On the adjacent wall behind Osiris, Anubis can be seen holding a symbol of life and a scepter. It is the guardian of mummies and graveyards. He shares the shrine with Osiris and is worshipped by Nefertari in the scene. After Anubis, the picture goes above a wide entrance, which leads to the side chambers of the antechamber in the vestibule. In the middle of the scene, a genie can be seen holding an embryonic circle with 2 Eye of Horus symbols. On either side of the genie are alternating blue ostrich feathers and cobras. In addition to connoting guardianship, they also imply the passage of time. On the other side of the scene, Osiris in a standing position can be seen inside an ornate and lightweight tent, who is surrounded by various amulets and spells. There is a lotus column on each side of him, representing the mysterious DNA of life. On the outermost side are the skins of leopards. These are fetishes of Anubis. Most of the figures of Osiris in QV66, especially the standing ones, show the god with an almost feminine waist and hips. This is probably no accident. Nefertari was to be united with Osiris after her death, and these attributes are meant to suggest that this had already happened. The last section of scenes in the antechamber can be seen on the wall adjacent to the standing Osiris. They were Horus and his 4 sons who were responsible for protecting the mummy's internal organs. These 5 deities can both be seen as part of the narrative with the Osiris line. It can also be seen as an independent narrative module, because the craftsmen skillfully painted them above the entrance to the stairway to the burial chamber, indicating the function of the space beyond the entrance.